All right, it's Jen. I just have to start with Mitch McConnell. I mean, where the hell is Mitch McConnell? What is going on with Mitch McConnell? There are so many questions. It has now been, in case you aren't counting, a bit over a month since we have seen the man, really, aside from that one photo. And it's pretty unclear what is going on here. I mean, again, the photo has really been their only attempt, really, at showing some sort of proof of life going on here. And the photo then was memed so many times by so many people, as I'm sure you saw. Mitch McConnell has been everywhere. He's pretty much played in the World Cup, according to all the memed photos, that it's hard to even know what's true and false and what's the original photo, right? So there's that. Now, since his hospitalization in June, McConnell has missed 40 votes. This is a guy who used to be the majority leader in the Senate. He missed 40 votes, which is certainly not insignificant. And according to the most recent health update, and this is basically all we know right now, he's still not medically cleared to leave his rehab facility or return to work as he goes through intense physical therapy. That is what they're telling us, but who the hell knows? So basically, the people of Kentucky are essentially left without one of their senators. Republican senators are left without one of their senators. And there are a lot of questions as to what the hell's going on here and what happens next. Now, because of all of this, there is a huge amount of pressure, understandably, on Governor Beshear, a Democrat, of course, the governor of Kentucky, to do something to find out what is happening. So there's been a lot of pressure on Governor Beshear, which is probably why he sent out a letter demanding that the senator address the people of Kentucky verbally. We don't just want a photo that can be memed. We don't want a photo. We want to hear your voice. We don't want to hear about phone calls, which have also become a whole crazy meme. We want to hear your voice. And in the letter, here is what Beshear says. He says, as governor of the state you serve, I'm calling on you to directly and verbally address the people of Kentucky and provide proof of your capacity to serve or resign. Now, there are a lot of sternly worded letters flying around Washington and flying around the country. And certainly there is valid criticism of why sternly worded letter? Why not just march down to the hospital or do something? That is a very valid question. But the other thing going on here is that there are a lot of theories as to what Governor Beshear actually has the power to do. And I know this, you probably have heard a lot of these theories. I know this because of just the things flowing in and out of my feed. And my husband has a lot of family in Kentucky. So I don't know, maybe it's flowing in there from there too. But a lot of different theories here. And I just want to go through a couple of them because one that's been all over my feed is about what happens if Mitch McConnell is declared unfit for office before August 3rd. Like August 3rd is some sort of a magical date. And this theory goes that that is when Kentucky would have to have a special election where then, of course, the theory goes, Thomas Massie would swoop in and take the Senate seat. Now, Thomas Massie, not a Democrat, I'm just going to remind you all. He is definitely anti-Trump, but on very particular specific things that piss a lot of people off. The war, the Epstein files, good on him. But he's not exactly a vote for expanding access to healthcare or, raising taxes on the highest income or doing something about data centers. He's not a reliable, he's not going to be part of the Democratic caucus. But let me just debunk this theory in itself, because certainly he'd be a better option than a number of people who are certainly currently sitting in the Senate. Okay, that's one of the theories, and I will get back to that in a second. But another theory is that McConnell's team and the Republicans behind him are delaying news of his unfitness to serve to somehow prevent Governor Beshear, a Democrat, from appointing a replacement. Okay, that is a big thing you hear over and over again. Well, those theories, Senator Massie, and this behind the scenes effort, not that they're not trying to screw over Governor Beshear. Of course they are, constantly, I'm sure. But on this particular thing, it sounds very House of Cards meets Veep, but neither of those things are probably what is going to happen or what is actually really going on here for a couple of reasons. Because first of all, thanks to a 2024 law passed by a Republican-dominated General Assembly in Kentucky, Governor Beshear has no power to appoint his interim replacement. So it doesn't, even if Mitch McConnell, even if they'd said he can't serve anymore, Governor Beshear doesn't have the power to replace him. The Republicans passed the law 2 years ago to make that the case. Instead, the vacancy would have to be filled with a special election and party committees would choose their own nominees. And this is what brings me back to Thomas Massie, because there is no way in hell the Republican Party committee in Kentucky or most states is picking Thomas Massie to be their representative. So I'm sorry, Governor Beshear doesn't currently have any power to appoint the replacement, and Thomas Massie would not be the one chosen by the Republican Party committee. Now, could Beshear challenge the 2024 law? Sure. Is there a will to change that in Kentucky? I really don't think so. The other thing I would note, because the frustration here, or the focus on this, understandably, is could this be another Senate seat for Democrats? There have been some really interesting people run for Senate in Kentucky. And obviously, Governor Beshear is a Democrat. Here's the thing. There's been a lot of Democrats who've been governor of Kentucky, including Governor Beshear, including his dad. There has not been a Democratic senator from Kentucky since 1992. Could it happen again? Maybe, but this is not the path forward to Democrats regaining the majority. So fascinating to watch. I don't know what the hell's going on with Mitch McConnell. I don't know if he's still with us. I don't know what capacity he is in, even if he is still with us. I don't know the answer to any of those questions. But fascinating to watch, but it's not the answer to the how do you hold Trump accountable question, which is why one of the reasons I think it's of interest. Okay. Speaking of just weird stuff happening, and this one really stuck out to me, RFK Jr. Now, since the last election, it has been abundantly clear that the American people, thanks in large part to what RFK Jr. and other fake public health officials have done to our system, are losing faith in our public health system. They are mad. They are understandably. And look at what's happening around the country. I mean, there's a rise in measles cases. We have an outbreak of explosive diarrhea that could have been prevented. There are so many examples here of things that don't need to be an issue, that people are grappling with this in this country and are because of the failure of RFK Jr. and the public health system. Well, this is what always sticks out to me about these freaking people. They seem to think they are observers of the problem, not the people driving the problem. RFK Jr. is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And he went on Fox this week, and I just have to show you what he had to say.
Americans no longer trust public health.
That's terrible.
I mean, first of all, he's right. Americans don't trust the public health system. Actually, a Fox News poll have Americans approving 45% and disapproving 54%. But also, my friend, you're not really my friend, but listen, you are the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I don't know what a brainworm does to people. But you know that, right? You know you're in charge. And if the public is disapproving of the public health system, you are what they are disapproving of. I'm not sure if you're tracking that, but that is the key thing. And as I already mentioned, worst measles outbreak in 35 years. If you're a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, that alone is enough to make you feel a huge amount of understandable rage. And you would think, given public health, and kind of the health in this country is something that usually transcends partisan lines. It is something that people worry about in communities, no matter their political affiliation. You'd think that of all the members of the cabinet, that RFK Jr. would be a target and somebody that Republicans in office and in the Senate would focus their energies and their anger at for what he is doing to our system. No, of course not. Of course not. And I just want to give you a few examples because today, Dr. Fauci testified. This week, I should say, Dr. Fauci testified before Congress. And the members of the Republican Senate who were there used this as a moment to push a range of conspiracies, including about what works to treat COVID. And I just have to start with Ron Johnson. Man, is he not a rocket scientist, but in his moment to talk to a public health official, and he was there because they're continuing to push this total right, crazy conspiracy theory that Dr. Fauci somehow decided to purposefully create COVID in a Chinese lab through funding with the NIH, which is false for a million reasons. NIH did not give funding to any program like that. Dr. Fauci is somebody who's been in public health for decades. That's crazy. And third, all of this is so that they can put the blame on him. That aside, this is what the hearing was about. This is Ron Johnson and what he used his time for.
And then when it comes to ivermectin, which, by the way, because I was contacted by so many people, I referred them to doctors who actually had the courage and compassion to treat vaccine-injured individuals. It works.
I mean, it does not work. It is not an effective tool in treating COVID. Have we been doing this for 6 years now? I want to bang my head against the wall. I'm sure many others do as well. Also, that's what he used his time for, to push a conspiracy theory about a treatment that did not work. And now he's not alone. Here we are. Doesn't it feel like we're going back in time to what we used to do? Because here was Peter Navarro outside the White House today.
All this stuff with science, Jasmine, I want to emphasize, tells us now works. He was saying didn't work. I had 1 million doses of hydroxychloroquine in warehouses as the defense policy coordinator for the DPA that I was trying to distribute to hospitals, and he got the FDA to stop me from doing that. Thousands of people could be here in this country right now alive if I had been able to distribute that. Take that to the bank. That's what the science says.
Okay. He's obviously a cuckoo bird. So is Ron Johnson. But the reason why this matters is because when you have an official from the White House and senators using their platforms to project inaccurate information about public health and to decrease the trust in vaccines which worked for COVID at a time when you have a massive increase in a measles outbreak and you have other potential diseases that could spread because people aren't taking or giving their kids vaccines, then that is a hugely dangerous public health situation. And that is what they are contributing to. Even though they are cuckoo birds, they are also very dangerous in what they're saying. Okay. Another issue. I mean, the more I listen to Donald Trump talk about Iran, the more I'm like, I don't think we know he's not a policy wonk. I don't think he understands like the basics of what's going on here or the history or even how global oil markets work, which is kind of surprising, I guess, since at least he was in the business world for some period of time. And he was on Fox with Brian Kilmeade this week, and he did this interview, and it was almost like Brian Kilmeade was trying to give him a line to help him out. And I just got to play it because it just shows you just there are other issues, but like his total confusion about the basics of how things work.
Only ships that we want to get through. Iran doesn't control the strait. We control the strait. So we had the blockade. Right. We had the confines of a deal. I set the blockade back, but I didn't take it away. The ships were not far away.
But ships are not getting through now.
And then I had to bring it back.
Mr. President, are we right that the no merchant ships are getting through right now, maybe 3 or 4 a day when you need about 100?
The only ones that get through are the ones that we want to get through. They're the only ships that get through, Brian. We have a blockade that's so powerful that nobody can get through.
Okay. So, here's the problem for Trump. That's why Brian Kilmeade said 100 ships, because you need that number of ships in order to have enough oil out there in the markets so that there isn't a shortage of supply. Because when there's a shortage of supply, the prices go up at gas stations everywhere in the world, but also in the country. Trump seemed to be missing that particular detail. I mean, he could have said all sorts of things like, we want to make sure 100 ships get through, working through it. That's our plan. That's our goal. We're going to get there. Whatever. He could have lied and said, oh, yeah, we are having the number of ships that get through. 3 or 4 a day, not enough. Maybe he doesn't understand it. Maybe he lies all the time so much that he forgets what it all means. I don't even know. But when you're watching what's happening with this war and what they're saying, it becomes even more concerning. And one of the things, and this has not gotten nearly enough attention in my view, but UN Ambassador Mike Waltz went on Meet the Press this past weekend, and Kristen Welker pushed him on kind of like a plan for ending the war. She also pushed him on a timeline. That should be, remember, this was supposed to be a very short military action back in March when it was launched. And here's what he said, which I think should be freaking alarming, but everybody should hear it.
Do you anticipate this conflict will be concluded by the new year?
Oh, I'm not going to put some kind of timeline on it.
You're not? Not by the new year? The new year is 5 months from now. I don't even know what the price of oil and gas at the pump would be 5 months from now. I talked to Amos Hochstein about this last week, and he's an expert on it, and he doesn't even think that's sustainable. That is the UN ambassador who won't even give a time frame for ending a war that they started that was supposed to be short. I don't know why more people are not paying attention to that, but I certainly hope they do. Okay. Another thing happening here in Washington, remember the old reflecting pool story? Oh, it's ongoing. It's still ongoing. And this is also a good example of, I guess, incompetence, but maybe incompetence that works out how it's supposed to work out. Because remember you all remember the botched renovation of the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool, the one that cost Americans $16 million in taxpayer money, in case you were forgetting that particular detail. Well, if you remember, one of the people who was arrested and accused of damaging the reflecting pool, which is so crazy. I mean, do you think this person got in the middle of the reflecting pool, in the dark of night or middle of the day, nobody noticed, and just took a knife through the length of the reflecting pool? Like, no way, it didn't happen, okay? But was this guy by the name of Davy Hearn, who is a Olympic canoeist, actually, of all things. And he was indicted this month. He pleaded not guilty. But, that's pretty alarming. You're an Olympic canoeist. I think he said he just touched the water to see, or touched the part of the paint just to see what was happening. And the government obviously thought that was a good idea. But guess what? The government's only witness to testify about the damage to the pool said that the pool was already damaged before Hearn, the Olympic canoeist, put his hand in the water. That's according to a court filing by Hearn's legal team. So that's where we are, everyone. The government indicted a former Olympic canoeist, charged him, trying to pin the reflecting pool damage on him and not the faulty paint and the no bid contract and the poor job Trump did in rushing this through. And guess what? The only witness says, no, that wasn't what happened here. Okay. That it was already damaged before. That tells you about incompetence. It tells you it reminds me a lot of the sandwich guy. Remember the sandwich guy, the guy who threw the sandwich and they tried to indict him? And it's like, what are we even doing here? This is what we're doing here, which is so completely crazy. But my point is the reflecting pool saga continues and it just keeps getting weirder and weirder.